September 20th, 2025. Well, I guess the aftermath of the Charlie Kirk assassination continues, and it's evolved into a free speech debate finally, because obviously many of the far left lunatics out there have went out and made a variety of crazy comments and have managed to get themselves fired by various employers, and that's been a big controversy. Now the Democrats are all out there claiming that somehow that the Republicans have gone cancel culture like the Democrats were, and somehow this is some kind of a threat to democracy or something. And of course, the latest and biggest issue has been the Jimmy Kimmel being put on indefinite leave or whatever. Formally, he hasn't been fired yet, but he's indefinitely suspended, I guess is the term. And so that's got people out raising all kind of hell, even though the show's popularity had declined considerably over time. And in reality, what led to it more than anything else, I think, was the fact that some of the local stations that were going to refuse to carry the show, which means that, that even reduces its profitability even more. And apparently he's also racked up a considerable salary over the years. And so that's actually, in fact, that's what causes a lot of otherwise successful shows to get canceled. After they've been around for a while, the principals of the show get such large salaries over time that it becomes no longer profitable. And so, but obviously, you sort of need a catalyst to actually lead to a decision being made. And I guess his joke where he's trying to claim that, which many Democrats were claiming, in fact, that this Tyler Robinson, the assassin, was a quote MAGA person, which makes no sense at all. Why would somebody that's supportive of the Trump movement want to assassinate Charlie Kirk? I mean, that's almost absurd, as if he was if Trump himself was a target. It makes no sense. The truth of the matter, of course, is I've covered in previous videos, which is that, in fact, he was a Trump supporter back around 2020 during that election. But his positions have changed dramatically in the years since then. And so that was not his motivation at all. It seemed to be over based at the transsexual issue and his significant other, let's say, that led to this. Although the significant other apparently was oblivious to what he'd planned to do and was apparently pretty appalled when he realized the trouble that he'd been brought into. But anyway, Jimmy Kimmel is waiting to see what happens. And apparently the thing that ultimately pushed it was they wanted him to apologize, and he refused to do it and wanted to double down. And so, well, so it goes with a lot of employment situations. Well, if you like these videos, please give me a like, subscribe, and click the bell for notifications. I appreciate the two that have recently subscribed as well. And we need one more to make that magic 100. So let's hope we can get there now. And so that is, and also, by the way, I also post this on Rumble, and you can follow me there if you're on Rumble or would prefer that. Yeah, so that's kind of the way I see that. But the idea that free speech is in question, this is not at all the kind of thing that was going on during, for instance, the Biden administration, or where they were, or the Obama administration. For instance, where Biden was, for instance, trying to get various social media, platforms, what was called Twitter at the time, and this YouTube here, to cancel people that disagreed with various policies at the time, particularly related to COVID and other things of that sort. And so that was an example of interfering with free speech by the government. But if private companies, seeing their own business interests, decide to cancel somebody, that's something else. And so I think that's not at all the situation. Now, in a way, there was some discussion, both of the FCC chairman and also Trump, about the idea of taking licenses away from television networks. And then that led to some kind of blowback from Ted Cruz and so forth. I think Cruz overreacted, and I think it was probably unwise to make the statement they made either, because at a time like this, you know, I don't really see that happening. You'd have to have something fairly egregious, I think, to actually to where they could really pull a major network's license. And I think the money that would be behind a company like Disney would go to court. And I think because of free speech interests, I tend to think that that would not actually happen. So I always get annoyed a little bit when people on our side basically raise an issue where logic would tell you it's never going to come to fruition. So why create the controversy with no payoff? If it was something he really could do, might be a different issue, but it's something that probably will not be sustained by the court system. And so, there we go. And so, at any rate, that's been the biggest brouhaha. Meanwhile, I guess it looks like the Turning Point USA has got a lot more interest and subscribers coming up, and his widow Erica seems to be is now taking over the organization. So that effort will continue. One of the most asinine things I've ran into very recently, was that apparently there's certain people who I would call in the anti-Semite or at least anti-Israel crowd are trying to somehow insinuate that Israel had something to do with the assassination, which is completely absurd. I mean, this is unlike, say, the Kennedy, either of the Kennedy assassinations. There's not much gray area here. There's a pretty clear-cut footprint. We know who did it. There was one shot involved from one rifle that was owned by a grandfather of the shooter. I mean, this is, kind of an open and shut case if there's ever been one. I mean, all you have to do, in my opinion, is not mess it up and go through the formality, and you'll get a verdict. And the only thing that's up in question is, will you get 12 jurors to agree on the death penalty or not? But that's about it. I don't think an insanity defense is going to be possible in this case. I don't think it meets the criteria, and I think we have our man. So that's that. But somebody throwing smears at Israel over this is absurd. I think that what was really a question was, well, there's a lot of concern about some of the things that's going on in Gaza, and there's a lot of extreme comments about that. My own opinion is, though, it just shows what happens when somebody who's on the losing side refuses to surrender and simply fights to the end. And that's the way it was, say, in Germany in World War II in 1945. I mean, there was a real calamity there that occurred after VE Day in 45. I mean, we don't like to think about it a lot, but you had Russian Soviet troops at the time, gang raping German women in Eastern Germany. You had, even on our side, we had millions of German POWs not really being treated according to the Geneva Convention for a period of time because simply there were too many of them. We didn't have the resources. You had a country on the edge of starvation. You had all kind of refugees fleeing the Russians into Western Germany. I mean, and I think you have the same kind of situation in Gaza. I mean, this could all be averted, one thing, if the Hamas people would simply release all the hostages. But they seem to refuse to do it. And even the Doha thing, which I think is a questionable attack, I'd have to argue wouldn't have happened if they just simply made the deal and released the hostages. This is, it just goes to show that the Hamas leadership doesn't care about their people. They care about their cause, not their people. They don't care how many of their people suffer. In fact, the more that suffer, the better, as people of the fools over in Europe start, demanding a Palestinian state and so forth. And they assure us that Hamas won't be running it. Yeah, right. But anyway, that's the kind of thing that goes into. But at any rate, on the domestic front, I think we're okay. And what's really going on here more is private companies just reacting like they normally do to people who are doing things that are a bit asinine. And maybe turnabout's fair play. Let's face it. I mean, look at the stuff that the Democrats have been doing when they were in power. And I don't think that we're a little bit of retribution might not be a bad thing, and I don't think it's going to go that far, really, because only idiots that are really stupid and say really stupid things and put it out on the video are probably going to have that much trouble over it. And I think that Ted Cruz can relax a little bit. I don't think the Supreme Court's going to support anything too far out. And so that's kind of the way that goes. I understand that the TikTok thing is still in play. Um, it looks like that there was a kind of a phone call between Trump and President Xi of China, and uh, a tr- there may have been some progress made, but so far it looks to me like China's really holding out on what really matters. And that's who controls the algorithm. What we really need is to get the Chinese to simply the bit dance or the byte dance, excuse me, to actually sell the company to an American company, and then we can kind of have the thing resolved. But so far they're holding out, and I guess there's some talk of a meeting in South Korea with between Trump and Xi, and I guess we'll see how that plays out. I presume this is more of the well, there's a lot of things going on there, including negotiations over the tariffs and the whole issue about Chinese support for Russia and all that that will come into play. Although I personally doubt that China is going to cave in on the Russia thing because basically, if they did, they'd have to be paying a lot more for oil. So I tend to think that's why that probably won't happen. And unlike some people in the world, I don't think they're really inclined to go there. So anyhow, that's kind of what I see at this week, and we'll have to continue and up with what's happening. And so I'll wrap this up for now, and I'll be posting this, as I say, on YouTube and Rumble as always. The address of my social media accounts are in the description below. And I'll post most often on X, but on the others from time to time also. So all for now.